what they want me to do to you, it's not gonna be pleasant.
If you've ever wondered how Welcome to Derry manages to balance Stephen King's terrifying universe with a fresh, modern take, the behind-the-scenes story is just as fascinating as the series itself. Developed by Andy and Barbara Muschietti alongside Jason Fuchs, the show took shape with HBO picking it up in early 2023 after initial commitments in late 2022. Bill Skarsgård's return as Pennywise, along with his role as executive producer, ensures continuity with the films while adding new depth. From meticulous casting and period-accurate sets to carefully timed scares using the Jaws effect, the series is a masterclass in horror storytelling. Here's a closer look at what Welcome to Derry really looks like behind the scenes. It all starts with an announcement that Bill Skarsgård would not only reprise his iconic role as Pennywise, but also serve as an executive producer had fans completely fired up. Still, those tuning in will have to be patient, because the clown doesn't immediately make his grand entrance. Instead, just like in the films, the creative team carefully paces his appearances, using him only when the moment truly calls for it. Andy Muschietti compared this strategy to the Jaws effect, referring to how the shark in Jaws is rarely shown until the tension is unbearable. That approach fits Pennywise perfectly because, as Muschietti explains, he's a shapeshifter. It makes sense that before showing up as the clown, he might appear in several different forms, some horrifying, some unexpected. Barbara Muschietti added that this unpredictability is what makes Pennywise so effective as a villain. You never know what form he'll take next, which keeps both the audience and the characters on edge. Thanks to that method, viewers can expect a slow build before the clown's full return, a few episodes of dread and mystery before he appears in his nightmarish glory. The creative team wanted every episode to hit hard, so balancing the absence of Pennywise with other terrifying entities became one of their biggest challenges. Since the season runs for 8 episodes, they made sure that each one offers something fresh and fearsome. The goal was to create new monsters and psychological terrors that could match Pennywise's level of horror, keeping the fear alive even when he's off-screen. It's an ambitious approach, but one that promises a lot of creative freedom and a bunch of chilling surprises. When Welcome to Derry was first pitched to HBO, it was envisioned as a prequel trilogy. In Stephen King's world, awakens roughly every 27 years to feed, and the first film was set in the 1980s. That means this series takes place in 1962, exactly 27 years before the events of the first movie. The time period offers rich storytelling potential because it sits right in the middle of major historical shifts, civil rights struggles, Cold War tensions, and cultural transformations that shaped America. Muschietti explained that those real-world issues are woven into Derry's eerie history, giving the supernatural horror a strong emotional and social grounding. Even though Derry is fictional, it represents a kind of microcosm of America at that time. Racism, paranoia, and violence were all bubbling under the surface of society, which aligns perfectly with the way Pennywise feeds on human fear. The showrunner, Brad Kane, mentioned that you can't tell a story without a monster that thrives on fear in 1962 without addressing the actual fears people lived with: racial inequality, segregation, and the looming threat of nuclear war. These themes aren't just historical references, they add depth and realism to the horror, grounding the supernatural in recognizable human experience. While much of the story unfolds in the early 60s, the series also digs further back into the deeper history of Derry. One of the most exciting new angles involves the Native American population of the region, who play a significant role in the narrative. According to Muschietti, this choice was deliberate because it lets the show explore the true origins of the creature known as and the people who first encountered it. This perspective adds a new layer of mythology not found in King's original novel or the previous films. The series also adapts one of the most haunting parts of King's book, the story of the Black Spot. This real-world inspired sequence focuses on racial violence and prejudice, and the show uses it as a central thread. In the novel, Mike Hanlon's father tells him about the Black Spot, a nightclub run by black servicemen that was burned down by a white supremacist group. The tragedy was horrifying enough in King's version, but the show expands it into a full dramatic storyline, exploring how such a violent act shapes generations. Actors Taylor Page and Jovan Adipo lead the cast as Charlotte and Leroy Hanlon, who are at the heart of this storyline. Centering the season on black characters allows the show to highlight how racial trauma and social inequality tie into the larger horror of Derry, and how Pennywise represents not just supernatural evil, but also the evil that exists within humanity. By merging personal, societal, and cosmic fears, Welcome to Derry promises to offer a layered kind of horror, one that's as thought-provoking as it is terrifying. Fans of Stephen King's universe will also notice a familiar face, or at least a familiar name. Dick Halloran, the kind-hearted chef from The Shining, who shares Danny Torrance's psychic ability known as the Shine, makes an appearance. In King's It novel, Dick was briefly mentioned in connection with the Black Spot tragedy, but now he gets a more developed role. Muschietti said it was an easy decision to bring him in because his abilities and moral strength fit naturally into Derry's larger story. His inclusion connects the It timeline to The Shining, expanding King's interconnected universe even further. Production for It Welcome to Derry officially kicked off in May 2023 in Ontario, Canada, under the working title Greetings from Fairview. Much like the movies, the series transforms the real town of Port Hope into the eerie, fog-shrouded streets of Derry, Maine. The attention to detail is remarkable. They even use the same local library and storefronts from the films to preserve that haunting small-town atmosphere. The production team dressed up the town to look like the 1960s, using vintage cars, classic signage, and period clothing to nail the aesthetic. Filming also took place in Hamilton, Ontario, where the city's abandoned factories and old buildings gave a perfectly eerie backdrop. One standout location was Delta Secondary School, one of the oldest schools in the region, which served as Derry High School for the show. Toronto was another major filming base, allowing the production to use the city's vast film resources. Despite interruptions caused by the Hollywood strikes, shooting wrapped successfully after resuming in early 2024. The continuity between the It films and the new series is one of its strongest assets. Having the same creative team ensures that the tone, atmosphere, and even the smallest details match up perfectly. Benjamin Wallfish, who scored both It films, returned to compose the series' music. His haunting orchestral sound carries over seamlessly, creating that same creeping dread fans loved in the movies. The Muschiettis were deeply involved in keeping this world cohesive, making sure that everything, from casting to production design, feels consistent with the film's universe. Barbara Muschietti was particularly hands-on with casting, just like she was for the movies. She worked closely with the casting directors to ensure that any younger versions of characters from the films were believable both physically and emotionally. Returning to work with child actors after the strikes presented challenges, especially since kids can change so quickly in appearance and personality, but she was committed to keeping that sense of authenticity alive. All these details, continuity, atmosphere, and respect for King's source material show how much care went into creating It Welcome to Derry. The team isn't just expanding a story, they're building a full-scale horror universe with interconnected timelines, rich characters, and emotional depth. Each creative choice, from grounding the horror in social commentary to bringing back the same musical and visual DNA, reinforces the idea that this isn't a simple prequel, it's a bridge between eras, exploring how fear evolves but never disappears. And that's that for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in our next video.